Good afternoon. This is Gordon Hunter. We're talking on sports trends, the rising cost of youth athletics. I have Mr. Chad Griffin, the athletic director of Calvary Day School. Chad, tell me a little bit about the cost of athletic participation for some of your high school athletes.
Yeah, what we're looking at and what's happening into today's environment for our high school student athletes is, we try to cover as much cost as possible within our athletic budget, and try not to push cost onto our student athletes. Each team has a certain budget to go over and what they have, but mainly that covers their needs. We provide, for example, we talked about, for football. Yes, we provide, helmets, shoulder pads, thigh pads, knee pads, those sort of things. If they need them, a lot of kids today buy their own girdle, that they keep. We don't buy that. And so from a participation perspective, and what they have to buy is basically just cleats, and their players pack. But like we talked about, every team has the opportunity to offset any costs that they need or that they may occur. And we talk about each program is different. So, for instance, football, helmet, shoulder pads, required equipment, got to have it, provide uniform, practice stuff, all that. But say we get to baseball and softball. Well, the athletic department doesn't purchase their game pants on either side, and most of them buy 2 pairs of each because they're going to wear them out and they're going to keep them. And so anything that the student athlete usually keeps, very rarely does the athletic department purchase that. Now, every team does some sort of fundraiser or some sort of activity to offset costs that's passed down to the student athlete. So as that's developing, and really some sports are way more than the others. Baseball and softball might be a bit higher. We don't pay for their helmets either because most of, with MRSA and everything else in today's time, you're worried about, they'll buy their helmet and that'll be their helmet for 4 years. That way there's no question about, hey, did this kid get this from that kid or whatever. So we're trying to eliminate that. And yes, that's a cost passed on to the student athlete and to the parent, but is a minimum cost in the overall grand scheme if something was like that to happen. And most of our parents completely understand and see that from that perspective. So, as that cost incurs, we're trying to the programs offset it of any gear that they might need.
So that's the only real cost to the student athlete is gear related. And I know you as an athletic department, you have a budget and a cost. And what are you doing to raise money to try to keep those costs down and not passing those along to the student athlete?
Well, the biggest thing in athletics is signage. Athletics is a driving force in anybody's high school, college. I mean, there's a reason why there's a $3 billion TV deal to schools because people want to pay it, people want to watch it. And so for us, driving advertising, selling signage at our sporting events, whether it's the football field, packaging that with baseball, softball, and basketball, the ability to do PA reads and broadcasts and things like that to get our sponsors notoriety and drive business back to them. Is how we offset majority of our costs, along with our athletic association sponsorships and having people join your booster club, your athletic association. And so my budget has not really grown over the last several years. At times it's shrunk. We're very frugal with what we do. It's a lot of what are needs, not wants. For instance, the officiating fees have gone up almost in every sport, and a great example of that is volleyball. They've gone from where whoever was playing in that tri match would each pay a third of the cost or whatever, to now if it's a home event for you, you're paying all the cost. Mm-hmm. So essentially, our volleyball official fees doubled last year from basically $1,500 to, for instance, we got the bill the other day, it was $3,400. Yes, exactly. And so those are things it's just what it is. You got to pay the officials. You got to have it. So for everything else, we try to use that money we raise to. I don't budget for a lot of the entrance fees, whether it's golf, basketball, swimming, cross country, wrestling. There's about 4 or 5 sports that have entry fees that you got to pay for stuff. A lot more wrestling, cross country, those sort of things. And so that money's raised outside of athletics to pay for that, and we don't put that in our budget.
Well, it's a blessing, definitely, that you're able to offset some of those costs for your athletes and keep those costs down. Last question, Chad, as we're wrapping up. Where do you see this trend moving in the future? Do you think that the rising cost of athletics, maybe not so much in the high school realm that you've been able to keep those down, but maybe in youth athletics, do you think that affects your pool of athletes moving forward, or the talent level that you see in the high school?
Well, the biggest thing I think we see in the National Federation comes out every year with this, and Georgia High School backs it up, is participation in high school athletics continues to grow each and every year, because I think the cost is a whole lot more minimum in high school than it is AAU club, travel. Those are where your costs are really driven. Your high school costs, hey, the kids are in school. Most times, 90% equipment's already there for them. But it's when you're playing, travel baseball, travel softball, club volleyball, club soccer, lacrosse. Perfect example. Went to go buy my son his lacrosse stuff, the other day, and it was $490. $200 was for his upcoming winter clinic dates. 8 to 10 practices, and then $290 something was equipment. Turner, that was his helmet. Now, thankfully for him, he's got a big enough head that helmet will fit him for the next 8 years. And so it's cost effective. But right there, youth sports is a driving increasing cost. And I think the more and more that kids are either specializing or the travel aspect of being on elite teams at an early age, I think that's where the cost is driven, especially in club soccer, club volleyball, AAU basketball, things of that nature. That's where I think it gets a little out of hand for such an early age. But this idea of wanting to be on an elite team at early age and being noted earlier and earlier, our society has just kind of deemed that necessary, instead of seeing how kids develop and grow, and and we're just kind of separating the herd, it seems, earlier and earlier in certain sports. And not everybody's that top 1%. I think parents have illusions of my kid being in that top 1%, and they see other things that go along with it. So if I'm going to pour X amount of dollars into it, I'm going to pour it into this. Well, if you take that money and you put in a college savings account, it's amazing how much more opportunity is for academics in college than it is athletics. And so those are really the main trends that we are seeing.
Well, Chad, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Anytime.